Zoo Tour.
Congratulations! Your job application for trainee at Kalamazoo City Zoo has been approved. Before you start your daily grind in this demanding but rewarding job, the administration would like you to take 6 photographs of the zoo's fabulous animals for a marketing brochure. But be quick. Printing takes time, and management cannot delay the brochure's production. Tour the zoo, identify the animals, and make sure the photos look fantastic. Welcome to the world of Zoo Empire. As this is your first assignment, we will slowly bring you up to speed and help familiarize you with the basic aspects of running your very own zoo. You can move the tutorial window anywhere on the screen by holding down the left mouse button on the box and dragging it around. Go ahead and give it a try, and then left-click on the Next button to proceed. You can also minimize the tutorial window by left-clicking on the Minimize button located on the upper right-hand corner of the tutorial window. Go ahead and give it a try, and then left-click on the Next button to proceed. It seems nothing is moving in your zoo. If the game is paused, then everything in your zoo will freeze in its current position until you left-click on the Resume Game button. Left-clicking the same button again will pause the game. To the right of the Pause Game, Resume Game toggle button are 4 speed bars. Clicking on these will accelerate the game speed. If you want the game to move at a faster pace, left-click on these bars to increase the game's pace. The more bars you have highlighted, the faster the game's time will run. Left-click on the Resume Game button to continue. Good. Let's start your zoo training with an introduction to the camera controls and see how you can move about the zoo. To scroll about the screen, move the cursor. You can also rotate the camera by holding the right mouse button and moving the mouse left or right. Try it out. To change the camera's perspective, hold the right mouse button and move the mouse up or down. Give it a try. Good. You can also zoom in or out by keeping both the Alt key and the right mouse button depressed while moving the mouse up or down. Very good! Now you have a solid understanding of how the camera works, and you can get to any location within the zoo. Let's move on, shall we? Notice the upper and lower toolbars on the screen. Mouse over each indicator and button for a second or so, and a context-sensitive help message will tell you about its function. Go ahead and familiarize yourself with these toolbars, and when you're ready, left-click on the Next button to continue. All right then, before we move on, let's review your scenario assignments by left-clicking on the Information Center button, followed by a left-click on the Goals button. Here you can see all the goals you need to meet before moving on to the next scenario. Main goals are essential to passing to the next scenario. Hold the left mouse button and drag the scroll bar to scroll down the list and review all your goals. When you are done reviewing your goals, left-click on the Next button to continue. As you can see, you need to take 6 photographs of your beloved animals. Therefore, let's see how to take photographs. First, close the Information Center interface by left-clicking on the Close button. The Close button can be found on the top right corner of all the interfaces. Whenever you left-click on the Photo button, a photograph will be taken and sent to your photo album. Go ahead and take 2 photos. Any 2 photos will do. Once you've taken the photos, left-click on the Photo Album button. If you do not transfer the photos you have taken to your collection, the photos will be deleted once you move on to another scenario or if you quit the game. Let's save these 2 photos you've taken by left-clicking on the Copy to Collection button for each photo you've taken. Very good. If you have some really great photos in your collection that you'd like to share with your friends, first make sure that the photos are transferred to your collection. Then, left-click on the Collection button. You can then left-click on the Generate Web Page button, and a web page will be created for you to post online for all your friends to see. To view a photo, simply double left-click on a thumbnail, and the photo will be enlarged. To return to the thumbnail view, you can either double left-click on the enlarged image or left-click on the Thumbnail Photo Toggle button. You can also capture movies to share with your friends, very much in the same way you would take a photo. Go on, play around with the photo album for a bit. And when you are ready to move on, left-click on the Minimap button to continue. The Minimap is a great way to navigate around your zoo. You can left-click anywhere on the Minimap, and the camera will go directly there. To the left of the Minimap are 5 buttons. Starting from the top, we have the Default Map View, followed by the Exhibit Map View, Visitor Item Map View, Animal Item Map View, and finally, the Water Map View. Left-clicking on any of these buttons will filter out all other items on the map. The plus and minus buttons on the bottom allow you to zoom in or zoom out of the Minimap. Play around with the Minimap until you get the hang of it. Then left-click on the next button to continue. Another interface that will come in handy is the Option menu, where you can adjust game settings, save your current game, load a previously saved game, quit to the main menu and start a new game, or quit to Windows, among others, which we will look into in upcoming tutorials. I'm sure you're eager to get your feet wet in your photo shooting assignment. Left-click on the Next button to continue. Let's recap what we've learned here before unleashing you in the zoo. You can change the game speed as well as pause and resume the game anytime. Move the cursor to the edges to scroll about the zoo. Right-click and hold the button down, and move the mouse left and right to rotate. Right-click and hold the button down and move the mouse up and down to change the camera's perspective. Hold the Alt key down and keep the right mouse button down while moving the mouse up and down to zoom in and out. When in doubt, mouse over any indicator, display, or button, and you will get context-sensitive help. Use the Minimap to quickly go from one part of your zoo to another. Take photos using the Photo button and organize your photo collection with the Photo album. Remember to refer to your goals in the Information Center to review all your past and pending goals. Good luck! See you in your next assignment.
Zoo completion.
You have inherited the Gainsworth Arms Zoo, a nature park outside the town of Wichita Plains. The zoo has an entrance and 2 partially completed exhibits, a fenced exhibit and a terrain exhibit. you have to complete a small zoo with separate exhibits for African elephants, giraffes, and red kangaroos, hire staff, and purchase animal enrichment items. Let's take a look at creating exhibits. There are two types of exhibits, fenced and terrain. Let's first take a look at fenced exhibits. In order to complete a fenced exhibit, you must completely surround the exhibit with fencing. First, left-click on the Animal Enrichment menu button, then left-click on the Fencing button. Now, left-click on the Stick Pole Fence thumbnail. Move the cursor to the nearly completed exhibit and left-click and drag on the terrain between the two end pillars of the fence you need to enclose, which is marked with blue lines. For the purposes of this tutorial, you can only add fences within this area. The cursor will change accordingly once you move the cursor over a completed exhibit. Good. You now have a proper exhibit. The only thing missing is an entrance. Without an entrance, your employees cannot enter the exhibit to tend to your animal's needs. Left-click on the Add Exhibit Entrance button and left-click somewhere along the exhibit fencing. The only thing this exhibit is lacking are some animals to liven it up. Left-click on the Adopt Animal menu button and find a giraffe, and double left-click on the thumbnail. You can then place the giraffe in its new exhibit. Add one male and two female giraffes. To return to the Choose Animal menu, right-click anywhere on the terrain. To change the gender of the animal, left-click on the Adopt Male and Adopt Female buttons located to the top left of the Choose Animal menu. Good! You now know how to create fenced exhibits. Creating terrain exhibits is a bit more tricky, as this involves using the Terrain Editor. So left-click on that button now. The Terrain Editor is a powerful tool that allows you to sculpt the terrain to your liking. When you see the Terrain Editor, left-click on the Toggle Grid button, then the Large Animal Constraints toggle button. You will notice that part of the terrain is blacked out. This means that animals cannot pass the steep inclines of the terrain. Blacked out grid markers are the terrain equivalent to fences. In order to create an exhibit with the Terrain Editor, you have to make sure that the entire terrain is surrounded by the black grid marks. Let's sculpt the terrain accordingly. First, left-click on the Change Terrain Height and Texture button, then select a texture to continue. Now, left-click on the terrain to raise it to roughly the same level as the blacked-out terrain, and release the mouse button. Note that you can only edit the terrain highlighted in blue, again for the purposes of this tutorial. You should see that the terrain has been blacked out. If not, then just raise it a bit more. Keep raising the terrain until there is a completely blacked out ring going around the terrain. When you are ready for the next step, left-click on the Next button to continue. Very good! You now know how to create terrain exhibits. However, we still need to add in an entrance for your staff to access the exhibit. In order to do so, you will need to add an exhibit entrance. To continue, place an exhibit entrance along the terrain highlighted in blue. Your staff can only walk on relatively flat terrain, and as such, despite having an entrance, they may not be able to enter the exhibit due to the steepness of the terrain. To find out, Open the Terrain Editor, left-click on the Grid button, then the Staff Constraints Grid button. It will show you whether your staff can walk through the entrance and into the exhibit. The 3 grid constraint buttons can be turned on simultaneously. So, you might want to turn off other grid constraint buttons to see only the staff constraints. When you have examined the terrain around the entrance, left-click on the Next button to continue. Seems that your staff cannot walk past the entrance after all. Let's smooth the terrain a bit for them. Left-click on the Smooth Terrain button and left-click on the terrain highlighted in blue around the entrance. Smoothing the terrain will allow your staff access to the exhibit, and with the entrance there, your animals will still be safe within the confines of the exhibit. Make sure you don't smooth the terrain beyond the grid marks occupied by the entrance. Otherwise, you may smooth the terrain too much, enabling animals to escape. Creating exhibits can be time-consuming, so we have a nifty little feature that allows you to save and load your best exhibits. To save an exhibit, simply left-click on the Options button, then on the Save Exhibit button. You will see the Save Exhibit menu. Double left-click on the Save New bar, then left-click on the exhibit you want to save. Finally, give your exhibit a name and left-click on the OK button, and your exhibit is saved. To load an exhibit, left-click on the Options button, then on the Load Exhibit button. When you see the Load Exhibit menu, double left-click on the exhibit you want to load, then left-click to place the exhibit in your zoo. Save your new terrain exhibit to continue. Very good! You now know how to create terrain exhibits. This is now a fully functioning exhibit, allowing staff in and keeping animals from escaping. Let's add a female and male elephant to this exhibit. As we've been toying with the terrain editor, let's see what else it can do. One of the most useful features is raising and lowering terrain. Not all animals like to live on flat terrain, preferring hilly or mountainous features akin to their natural habitat. First, left-click on the Terrain Editor button, then on the Change Terrain Height and Texture button, then on the Change Height Only thumbnail. Finally, move the cursor somewhere near the empty patch of land marked with blue lines, and left-click to raise the terrain. You can create hills and mountains this way. The difference between hills and mountains is a subtle one. The higher the value set with the smoothing slider, the more smooth hills you will generate. Conversely, the lower the value set with the smoothing slider, the more jagged or mountainous the terrain will become. Left-click on the Next button to continue. You can also lower terrain. When you lower the terrain below the default height, water will start to appear. This is the same water that your beloved beasts will drink out of to quench their thirst. And virtually all animals require access to water. Let's create a body of water now by shift-left-clicking on the terrain until you see some water. You can also click the middle mouse button or the mouse wheel if your mouse has these buttons. Left-click on the Next button to continue. That's about it for now. Let's summarize what you've learned in this tutorial. You need to completely fence off an area to create an exhibit. Terrain exhibits require altering the terrain so that animals cannot escape. Remember to turn on the Animal Constraints grid to see whether animals can be confined within the terrain. Both types of exhibits need a gate for zookeepers and other staff to enter and tend to the needs of your animals. Add new animals to your zoo through the Adopt Animals menu. And remember to review your goals. And good luck on your assignment.
Good help is hard to find these days.
The city of Savannah Plains has been struggling for some time to attract visitors from its tourism-based economy to visit their zoo. And no wonder. The city zoo is woefully lacking in animal variety, due in no small part to the zoo's appalling shortage of qualified personnel to look after the poor animals. As the new manager of the Greater Savannah Zoo, it is your duty to not only increase the number of unique animal species, but also to hire the requisite number of staff and managers to care for your animals, your visitors, and your zoo as a whole. You know how to create both fenced and terrain exhibits, as well as adopt animals. However, your animals need to be cared for, so the next step is to hire the necessary staff to ensure your animal's well-being. Left-click on the Hire Staff menu button, then double left-click on one of the zookeeper candidates and left-click somewhere in the zoo so that your new zookeeper can commence his duties. A well-run zoo needs all sorts of specialized staff in order for your zoo to run smoothly. Zookeepers are charged with your animals' well-being, feeding them when they are hungry, and cleaning up after your animal's nature calls. Maintenance workers inspect the zoo grounds and repair any defective or worn-out items, such as machinery and fencing. Groundskeepers clean up the trash cans and restrooms in order to keep your zoo operating as cleanly as possible. Tour guides will introduce your visitors to the animals and will make their experience a more fulfilling one. You will need at least one of each staff member in your zoo, so go ahead and hire a maintenance worker, a tour guide, and a groundskeeper. You may have to scroll down the list to view all the job positions available for hire. Your staff is only human, and their performance is affected by their salary, morale, training, and efficiency. The higher the salary, the better the morale. The more training, the more efficiently they will work. Good salaries and training will usually produce better results from your staff. However, despite your best efforts, some staff simply will not perform to your expectations. In this case, the only thing left to do is to fire them. You can adjust your staff's salary as well as fire them through the Staff Details menu. You can also fire staff through the Hire Staff menu. Left-click on the Next button to continue. If you want to view your staff details, or if you'd like a listing of all your staff, you can left-click on the Staff menu button. From here, you can adjust your staff's salaries or fire them. You can also get an at-a-glance view of each staff member and their relative performance by gauging the attribute bars to the right of each staff member's name. The staff menu will automatically show you a list of all your staff members. To view their details, left-click on their names. Try it now. To go back to the list mode, left-click on the Staff List button, located near the top right corner of the menu. When you are ready to move on, left-click on the Next button to continue. Management also plays a vital role in your zoo. They are the ones who can conduct research for better zoo facilities, introduce new animals into your zoo, and train your staff. Managers will automatically do this without any intervention on your part. The zoo curator can research new animal species. The veterinarian can research cures for zoological diseases. The visitor services manager can research new items and services to keep your visitors happy. The education director can research new programs to promote visitor awareness for animals. The facilities manager can research new fencing to keep strong and dangerous animals safely away from your visitors. Your managers are also able to train your staff so that they perform better in their duties. Of course, they command higher salaries, but the good news is that you only need one of each type of manager in your zoo, although you can hire more than one person to cover the staff position. So go ahead and hire them all now. Very good. Of course, being the managerial types, the specialists you just hired need a place to work. Left-click on the Visitor Attraction menu button, then on the Large Structures button, and left-click on the Staff Office thumbnail and place it somewhere in your zoo. If you want to rotate an item, press down the mouse button and move the cursor toward a direction to change the direction the item is facing. Once you have the staff office in place, you are ready to conduct research. Great! Now let's take a look at research. Left-click on the Information Center button, then on the Research button. You will see the Conduct a New Research Project button for your zoo to develop. Left-click on it now. You will see a list of available research for you to conduct. Simply left-click on any research item you want. Then, left-click on the OK button. Repeat these steps if you want to conduct more research. The more money you allot to research, the faster the research can be completed. Adjust the amount. It can be tough having to look after so many zookeepers in your zoo. One way to make sure that all your animals are cared for is to assign your zookeepers to directly assume the care for a specific exhibit. Although zookeepers will still look after all your animals, they will go around each exhibit and check up on your exhibits one by one. And this may not be enough to maintain happiness levels in animals that require extra attention or have special needs. Large exhibits can also benefit from assigned zookeepers. To assign zookeepers to exhibits, first, locate the Exhibit Marker item under Enhancements in the Animal Enrichment menu. Left-click on it, then place the exhibit marker in one of the exhibits in the zoo to continue. You may want to give the exhibit marker a meaningful name. To do so, double left-click on the exhibit marker, then left-click on the Rename Item button. Give the exhibit marker a suitable name, then left-click on the Confirm Renaming. Now, left-click on the Staff menu button. You will see a list of your current staff. Left-click on one of your zookeepers, then left-click on the Staff Details toggle button until you see the Assign to Exhibit details. From here, all you need to do is to left-click on the Assign to Exhibit button, and the zookeeper will solely dedicate his duties to the assigned exhibit. Go ahead and assign your zookeeper to an exhibit marker to continue. Nice job! You now know how to hire and fire staff, as well as conduct research. Before you move on, let's take a brief look at what you've learned. Remember to hire the right staff for all your animal needs. Remember to hire managers to conduct research for new items to add to your zoo. Managers require a staff office, so make sure you add one to your zoo. Managers can train your staff as well as research new items, so put their skills to good use immediately by conducting research via the Information Center menu. Good luck with this assignment.